Hello and welcome to my channel, to my bookshelves. And my name is Hannah. If you are new here, and if you hear noise, it is because it is finally beautiful weather where I live, and the neighbor children are playing, and we're just gonna go with it. This video, I am starting a new series talking about what's on my shelf. You can see I've dismantled this one, but I was really inspired to just talk about the books that I own and, kind of fit them into categories. And there's a specific category of book that I'm really obsessed with right now, and I thought I would do like a recommendation video, but also showing off the books in that genre and that category that I own to show you that not only do I love this category, but I love it enough to put them forever in my collection. And in this episode of What's on My Shelf, we're going to be talking about Sapphic SciFi. That is any women loving women, female, non-binary, femme, any definition of the word sapphic. If there's a femme presenting main character who is attracted to women or non-binary individuals who identifies as sapphic, that is sapphic. And if it has sci-fi elements, it's a Sapphic SciFi. This is a category of books that I've been really obsessed with lately. If you've watched my previous wrap-ups, you know that I can't get enough of these, and I want more books like this. I will continue to find more and read more as we go, but these are the 10 Sapphic SciFi books / series that I own, and I'm going to order this from the fewest sci-fi elements to the most sci-fi elements. So if you're a beginner in the sci-fi genre, I would start with the first books in this video, working our way to the hard sci-fi, the more twisty sci-fi, the confusing sci-fi. So that's how we're going to order this video. Without further ado, let's talk about some Sapphic SciFi books. The first one we're going to talk about is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. This is about August, who moves to New York City, and she finds another woman on the train, and she keeps seeing this woman over and over again. Her name is Jane. They keep interacting, but something fishy is going on. Jane seems to be stuck on the train. She can't get off of the train, and she has been on the train since the 1970s. So August is on a mission to help Jane break out of this time loop that she is in. So this is a romance novel with a little bit of a sci-fi twist to it. There are side characters, and this is a great cast of like a found family in this one, with a little hint of sci-fi. So if you're a romance reader and you like, you want to test the waters with sci-fi, I highly recommend One Last Stop. It's very, very cute, and there is some steam, FYI. The second book / series we're going to talk about is Sword in the Stars and Once in Future. Once in Future is the first book, Sword in the Stars is the second book. This is by Amy Rose Capetta and Corey McCarthy, who are a married couple, and they are very queer. This is a gender-bent retelling of King Arthur in space, so I would classify this as a sci-fantasy. There are fantasy and sci-fi elements in this little duology, and it's a young adult series too. So if you're a young adult reader and you mostly read young adult fantasy, I highly recommend this duology. Also, if you're a fan of King Arthur stories, mythology retellings, this is a lot of fun. We have Upright Women Wanted by Sarah Gailey. This is a little bit dystopian, I would say, more so than sci-fi. It doesn't really have any fantasy elements, but it is set in a dystopian future, so I would categorize this as a sci-fi novella. This is about a band of anti-fascist librarians who are, gunslinging and traveling around in a wagon, and they go from town to town, and what they're supposed to do is pass along sanctioned government reading material, but they are a smuggling crew, essentially, and they smuggle both people as well as unsanctioned written material. And this is the main character is attracted to women and ends up in a relationship with a non-binary person, and it's really cute. It's really fast-paced, gunslinging librarians. What more can I say? This is great. It's a quick read and I highly recommend it. Love Sarah Gailey. Next we have The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I recommend Becky Chambers all the time. The Wayfarer series by Becky Chambers has great polyamorous rep and sapphic relationships, and just everybody's queer, and it's a great found family scenario where this crew is on a mission to basically create a tunnel in 2 points in the universe, and so you can, once the tunnel is created, you can quick travel between the 2 points, and it's just them traveling from point A to point B. And so this is a character-driven sci-fi work, and so I wouldn't be too intimidated, because if you're a character-driven reader, that's what I think is the highlight of this series, are the characters. There are aliens, there is a ship, there's sci-fi elements, there's an AI character, but don't let that detract you from this really great series. Then we have The Luminous Dead. If you like horror, thriller, psychological elements in your sapphic stories, or your sci-fi, this is the one for you. I think this is so scary. I really, really like this. And the sapphic relationship in here is kind of twisted. So if you're kind of into supporting women's wrongs, and maybe not necessarily, you know, we've got some gray women in this one, I would recommend this. This is about a Geyer who's a spelunker, and she's like on a planet doing cave diving, and it's very, very scary, very claustrophobic. And I'd say it's pretty light on the sci-fi elements, other than that it's on a different planet. She's got like a suit on, but it's mostly about the spelunking, and it's very creepy, so I highly recommend this one as well. Talk about messy, gray, supporting women's wrongs. You know, imperfect women. We've got Escaping Exodus and its sequel Symbiosis by Nikki Drayden. Now this is about a matriarchal society that lives inside a giant spacefaring entity, and they basically harvest this creature from the inside while it's still alive and flying around in space, and they harvest its organs and body for natural resources. Kind of gross, but it's an interesting concept, one that I've never seen before. And this is about basically the princess. The first book is basically about the princess and her best friend, who's kind of a lowly worker in this creature, falling in love and doing messy shit. This is also a really great polyamorous rep in this society. There's 10 parents for one child, and each member of the family has a very specific role. So if you're interested in polyamory, representation in sci-fi, this is a great duology, and it's very messy in terms of the sapphic romance. I really like this. We're starting to get into some more in-depth and more heavy sci-fi. The previous books were a little bit lighter on the sci-fi elements. Now we're getting a little bit more medium levels. Sci-fi duologies are great, by the way. A Memory Called Empire, A Desolation Called Peace by Arkady Martine. I really like this series. This is about Mahit Dismar, who is an ambassador from a small colony, and she's traveling to the Central Empire and the capital of the empire because the previous ambassador was murdered or had mysteriously died, and she's investigating his death as well as becoming the new ambassador. She also has a copy of the personality of the previous ambassador embedded in her head, which is very interesting. This has a lot of political intrigue as well as sci-fi elements. The Empire's society is really interesting, and they have an interesting naming system. This is, again, sapphic and a really great duology. If you like politics, this is a great duology. It won the Hugo Award and I think it deserves it. The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. This kind of started my obsession with Sapphic SciFi. This is about a woman, I think her name is Kara, and in this multiverse, there are individuals who can travel between worlds, between different versions of the universe, but only if they don't exist in that universe. So people who can do this are often people who grew up in unsteady situations where it's more likely for their alternative person in a different universe to have died. So Kara is kind of this kid, or when she was a kid, she grew up really poor on the outskirts of society in kind of a rough situation. So a lot of versions of herself have died. So she travels between the multiverses, if that makes sense. And this is about her upsetting the apple cart politically with this system. It's very anti-capitalism. We love to see it. And falling in love with her female handler, who's an Asian woman. This is a black lead with an Asian love interest, and I absolutely love this. I really need to reread this. It's a standalone as well, which I really appreciate. So really recommend this one. This is starting to get a little head twisty in my opinion. We're starting to expand our horizons. I would classify this as hard sci-fi. Talk about hard sci-fi, we've got This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Mahotar and Max Gladstone. And this is about red and blue, and they are like shape-shifting agents on opposing sides of a time war. So these two groups have been fighting each other through millennia, through time, to try and win, and they end up writing love letters to each other over time. It starts off as taunting, look what I did, I messed up all your plans, and it slowly evolves into love letters. And this is one of the most beautifully written novellas I've ever read. Every time I read it, I cry. It's so beautiful, and it's almost to the level of like purple prose. So if you're not into that, maybe don't read this. And this is pretty intense sci-fi. It jumps around a lot, so you just kind of have to be along for the ride. Just go with the flow with this one, because we're jumping from time to time, from world to world, and we don't really know what's going on for most of this book. But the focus really is the romance developing between these two characters. So again, if you're a character-driven reader, you're here for the romance, highly recommend This Is How You Lose the Time War. And my last recommendation, my last Sapphic SciFi recommendation I have is The Light Brigade by Cameron Hurley. The most twisted Sapphic SciFi that I own, I'd say. This is about, there is a war going on between corporations on Earth and Mars, and they've invented a technology to basically like break a person down into their particles and like shoot them across space to Mars to fight. So this is about a soldier. She's a soldier, and she is being she's being sent to fight this war against Mars. And this has like a super open ending, so I just want to say that up front. If you're not into open endings, do not pick this book up, because it's very kind of unclear as to what really happened, and really benefits from a reread. So if you're not committed to that, I totally get it, but I really like this one. There ends up being a sapphic romance in here as well, which is why it's in this video, and I love the sci-fi in here and the anti-capitalist sentiment. All right. That's my Sapphic SciFi collection. I think I've got maybe a few more on here, and that's not all of the Sapphic SciFi I've read. That is all the Sapphic SciFi that I own physically in my hands. So let me know if you want to see what else is on my shelf, or if you have any Sapphic SciFi recommendations for me. I would love to hear it in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!